Let's learn the movement vocabulary in Ghoomar. I noticed 4 fundamental principles in Ghoomar. First is lower body bends, where you bend your lower body. The second is hip isolations. The third is angles. And fourth is the hand gestures or mudras. In Ghoomar, there is a lot of lower body bends when you're doing the dance movements. So the more you bend into, say, a chair pose or an utkatasana or a narrow leg squat and do your hand gestures, the prettier the movements look. Ghoomar seems like a very gentle, elegant dance form that it is, but it does use a lot of quad muscles. So see if you can strengthen your quad muscles and bend as much as you can while doing the movements. Now, hip isolation is when you move your hip, isolating your torso. Now, when you combine the lower body bends and hip isolation, imagine I'm standing straight, I'm not bent my body, and I'm doing a hip isolation. The hip isolation is not as prominent, but imagine I bend and then I do the hip isolation. The hip gets noticed even more. Now, imagine you combine that with angles. For the sake of Ghoomar, I'm going to break down angles of the body into 3. The first one is your head and the neck. That's your first angle. The second is your torso. And the third is the lower body. If we combine the angles with the hip isolation, imagine I'm standing again and I'm just doing a hip isolation. The hip isolation does not become as prominent as if I change the angle of my lower body, I change the angle also of my torso, and third, I change the angle of my head. Now in this, imagine if I combine the lower body bend or sitting in a chair pose and then doing the movement. Do you notice that the entire movement looks very different because I've combined angles as well as lower body bends to make the hip isolation look more prominent. The fourth is hand gestures or mudras. Now, Ghoomar sees a lot of very pretty, elegant hand gestures. It's very easy to pick them up. One, remember that your wrist action is always enhanced. So any movement that you do, there's a lot of wrist movement that happens. That is one. The second thing is try and keep your 4 fingers joined so that your palms look more elegant. You can always keep your thumb separate and then you can go front and back. There's a few popular steps are the Ao Jao step. Imagine you're doing an Ao Jao. The second is getting your hands on your shoulders. The third is getting your hands on the elbows. In the next video, let's learn a Ghoomar choreography tutorial. See you in the next video.